All right. I believe we are live. Yeah, we're live. I got the thing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekly Strength Club podcast. Today we're going to be going over. I think this may actually be a series. I'll see what Chase thinks about like how to gym, kind of things that we wish we knew, tips to start, tips to stay in the gym frequently and reliably. New Year's is coming up, so I want to be able to have a few episodes just to send to people. Be like, here, go through these. There's kind of our archive of things. Chase, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well. It's been somewhat nice and kind of warm here in Oklahoma, but our nights are starting to kind of get cool, I love it. So yeah, the weather is kind of turning me on, man. I love this cold feeling. I love cold weather.
Yeah, giant people seem to like the winter months.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, anytime that I'm very lean, I just get aggressively cold. So whenever I used to live in Pittsburgh, I used to wear like thermals. I would have like 2 layers of thermals on, then a sweater, then a hoodie, then a coat. It was terrible. Ideally, I feel like I need to move on the equator. That would be the goal. But Chase, you guys just finished up peak week. What was it, 2 weeks ago at your gym in OKC?
It was about the last week of October, or probably the second
Okay.
week, the last. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
basically the end of October, and it was awesome. We had just a rough estimate, about 15, 12 people actually do it, and everyone PR'd. It was kind of weird because the majority of those people have never trained before. They've
Mhm.
just done the novice linear progression. So it was basically novice linear progression to now, hey, let's taper for let's
Right.
whatever goals that I think that you can hit. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, me jerking numbers out of my ass. Phoebe, the same thing with her that she was running.
uh, yeah.
But I mean, it worked out very well. Everyone was very satisfied with what they hit, and if they didn't hit their goal, of like, let's say 300 on the bench, they got like 295 or
Hmm.
275, somewhere in the ballpark. And now we know where they are right now. We have the data, and we can kind of go forward on this next peak week that we hopefully can do in a month or two.
Okay, so you guys structure about like 2.5, 3 month cycles basically for
I
people.
think I think I may try that, because what I've seen now is that it keeps people energized about training. It gives them that goal based. And now, look, I've been doing this 6 months. I
Hmm.
have something to train for. And
Yeah.
I've seen on my end too is that now people are kind of coming back after a little bit of a deload. They're hitting, what their previous kind of triples, singles, and doubles were for sets of five now. And that's awesome to see that too.
Later on in this presentation, we have hot takes and honorable mentions outside of these top 10 tips. I think I may add this one to it. But like Chase was saying, after a peak week, you have that little kind of systemic deload and stress when you're getting back into it. You may take a few days off, and then you can start your next cycle. Anytime you're in the gym and then you have a particularly shitty week or a particularly good week, note it, put it in your notebook, put it in your spreadsheet, make it red, put stars all around it, put some stickers in there, whatever. You'll find a trend, train for a year, and you'll be like, oh, you know what? It's really weird. For some reason, every 8 weeks, I feel absolutely terrible. And every time I go into the gym, it's a terrible performance. And it's like, hey, that's probably your cue that you should have placed your light week then. Look at your programming beforehand. Same thing if you have a really good week. But yeah, so I think we did miss this part. We have a few people in the chat, by the way. Not in the chat, but watching the stream, we can see that on our end. So say hi, have some questions, let us know. We'll be going over some videos on this one too. But this is the Strength Club podcast or show. Is this a podcast or a show, Chase?
It's whatever the
This is a
fuck we want it to
show.
be.
I think it's a show because we don't release the audio only for this, I don't think.
Yeah, I
Right?
guess it's a show.
Yeah, this is a show. This is officially just a show. Podcasts, no podcasts. I don't want to be a podcast guy, just to be a show guy. I like the rip
Mhm.
move of going radio show.
Yeah, it's something that still ties into it, but it's still its own little entity.
Yeah, I can't imagine Rip's being like, yeah, I'm a podcaster. Rip's a
Let's do like
professional podcaster.
we are the
Uh,
the strength club commercials. I like that.
yeah, we're just an infomercial for
Exactly.
how to be slightly above mediocre in the gym. But yeah, so we're two starting strength coaches, and the goal for this channel is to kind of create this big archive or well of information of things that we think that people should cover more. So we have episodes on like the bench, squat, deadlift, all the big lifts, how to choose your accessories for those, how to navigate through pain and injury with those, how to tackle your programming, how to end the LP, all that jazz. So dig through the channel. There's a bunch of good stuff in there. Hopefully you're already familiar with most of this stuff or have been tagging along for a while. And if you're new, welcome. So in terms of contacts, we have our boy Chase at Chase Lindley and his backups at Chase_Lindley. Have you posted anything in the past few days, Chase? I've missed it.
Uh, no, just that the last thing that we were talking about with Mick, I snatched. No, it wasn't snatched. I clean and jerked 160.
Mm-hmm.
It felt pretty good.
That'd be nice if you snatched 160. That'd be cool.
Dude, I'd be very happy. And then I jerked 175. So
okay.
something that was kind of, I felt like it was decent enough to post and stuff. But yeah,
Decent enough. Only decent enough. What are you, like 9 months in weightlifting?
almost a year. I think
Almost a
December
year?
will technically be a year. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Kind of do the middle-aged woman thing on that one and just lie about it. Just be like, oh, it's actually,
Yeah,
I'm 2 months in, actually. I have a 200,
I wish.
200 clean. But yeah, Chase does online coaching. He's a very smart gentleman. You should get some online coaching from him or visit him in Oklahoma City. You can find me at my website at acosstrength.com. I do consults and online coaching as well if you have any questions. And if you want to get some videos on the show, send them into support@strength.club. We have 13 videos in the queue this week or for this show right now. So we'll get to those after we run through our 10 tips. Topics for today. Of course, the 10 tips. We'll have ample amounts of rambling. And then we have that 13 form checks that I talked about. And then we always have to have this in here. I think, I have this image saved on my computer in like 3 different places in case I lose it. But it's a quote from our fearless leader, Mark Repetto, saying, "You're thinking too hard about this." And then Robin from the UK saying, "I know, it's a curse." So these tips are not, I don't think they're in any coherent order. Chase and I worked them out before the show. I wouldn't say these are a priority at all. So just, treat the numbers as kind of a way for us to keep track. Chase, do any of these on the screen stand out to you?
Definitely like number one, because I work in a gym where we have time slots. It's not just a freely acceptable gym to where you can just come in at any point. We have designated class times. And then I usually talk about,
It's like an
each
attendance
vertical.
role, by the way, right? Like your name is on the slot when you come
It
in.
is. It is. We
Okay.
have 7 slots, and Bob, Ann, Sue, all those guys are filling out the class, and you signed up for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday time slot, and that's your time. You have to go in there and do your thing.
Yeah, sacred hours. I think one of the big things that people start in the beginning is that they don't treat it as a priority. I would assume that if you are starting your journey into training and fitness, it's just a thing that you want to learn. Your doctor could have told you that you need to get your ass in shape. Your wife could have told you that you need to get your ass in shape. You could wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and vomit a little bit. Whatever you're doing, there's likely there's an impetus for it to happen. There was some sort of catalyst. So you need to treat it like the priority it is. So I always tell people with their training, treat it like the hours that you're dedicating are sacred hours. So like let's say that if you have 5:30 to 7 Monday, Wednesday, Friday blocked off, if you don't make it to the gym, don't do anything else during that. Go do some push-ups, go for a walk, go clean your kitchen out of all the junk food. Whatever it is, dedicate that time to fitness no matter what, even in the situation where you have to do something suboptimal. Treat them like a non-negotiable. You want to treat it like that hour. It's just the thing that you do. Like if on Sunday you do your laundry for the week and you iron all your dress shirts, it's that level of thing, just as much it is brushing your teeth in the morning. Chase, how do you feel about people working out? Have you ever found it to be successful? People just kind of train whenever they want. I don't know many people
Mm,
who do that.
no, I don't. Especially at the start with a novice, like with an
Yeah.
advanced athlete, yes, because he has the data to show, he has the hours spent in of showing. Like, look, I've been doing this for years. Shit has been kind of happening with my schedule here currently, but I'm committed. I'm not going to stop just cold
Hmm.
turkey. But the majority of people, yeah, like you said, and especially in today's day and age where you have so many distractions with people getting on their phones, working on their phones, just anything to do with technology, period. It's always there in the back of people's mind whenever they try to set aside some time for whatever they need to do. That's why I love, whenever at our gym, it's only 90 minutes. Like if you can't commit 90 minutes out of your day, um, we can kind of work around it. But I
Hmm.
think everyone, that's a pretty manageable time. And at the start, no one even uses all that 90 minutes. It's more
Yeah.
like 45 and stuff. So
It's
if you
45, then go sit on the assault bike or push the prowler, basically.
exactly like
Yeah.
you need to. It's not that big of a time slot to where you're missing out on anything, and we have a total number of class times to where we're very very flexible with what we can do. So
hmm
I think the people using that excuse of not having enough
Oh,
time
I
and
don't have
stuff,
the time. As so many
yeah,
people say
that's
that,
total
and it's
bullshit, man.
crazy. It's
Total bullshit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I think people do this with like their laundry, with washing dishes, with cutting the grass. They'll be like, "Oh my god, it's like a thing. It's an ever-present anxiety." But if you actually just do the thing, it really doesn't take that long. You know what I mean? It's not
Doesn't.
like your end of semester thesis that's going to take 200 hours.
Mm-mm.
It's like it's like, hey, I'm going to go set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes and I'm going to clean the kitchen, and you'll get basically the entire thing done. If in your head it's a lot harder of a task than it seems, just like blocking out 90 minutes. G Lock in the chat saying hi, friends. Hello, G Lock. And then we must have Haim Shapev in the chat as well. He's saying, guys, a question for you. My program for older people, and if we've watched some earlier episodes, he's doing a program from the Barbell Prescription, a book by Jonathan Sullivan. Excellent. And it was calling for 3 squat reps and deadlift reps, 1 set for each, but he could only do 2 reps for both lifts. And what did he say afterwards? He said, so what I did is add 1 more set with 1 rep to each lift. Is this a good thing to do, or just move on and hope for better performance next time? And he's an older gentleman, 50 plus, intermediate. What do you think, Chase?
So it seems like you're just trying to get 3 total reps any way you can. I think that's fine. That's going to start kind of changing over time to where maybe it looks like 3 singles. Currently, it seems like you're hitting a double then a single.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fine. But what you have to look at is even if you're hitting 3 reps, are you able to do that within a manageable time? Like, are you resting 20 minutes in between each rep? If you're doing that, I think you need to change some stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's 3 reps within a very manageable time space, 4 minutes, 5 minutes at the max, yeah, just keep pushing it.
Yeah.
This is it kind of this depends type question. It's hard to kind of see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's hard to coach through this one without kind of seeing them, because it's like
Yeah,
you could just be bad at lifting, and then technically you could have misgrooved both of those reps. We have no idea. If it's a very heavy triple, a lot of people will have like significant technical degradations on the 3rd rep. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So that's one of those things where it's like, were you just not strong enough to do it? Did you technically misgroove the rep? Was your head just out of it because you were spooked out by the previous failure? If you do 2 reps and then 1 rep, I would recommend just repeating that again and then see if you can get all 3 next time. Like if you work with the same load and could get more reps, you're also getting stronger, so that's totally fine. But you'll have to make adjustments as necessary. And then this would be a good one to segue into number 2, like understand the why, like in Haim's situation, like why is he doing it? Do you have a competition on the forefront, and like weight on the bar absolutely matters a ton? You're like 6 weeks out and you're like, hey, I need to get this triple no matter what. Or are you just training for general strength and health? So understanding the why, I think, is a pretty big one for me. What does this one mean for you, Chase? Understanding the why.
definitely. It's like the science of why even do this, or I mean, I kind of hate to use this word, but it's the selling point. So let's take for example, like you have a guy who's telling you that we need to work on the tsunami bar, which is a really flexible bar. We're going to tie bands that have kettlebells on the end of it, and it's looking like it's going to attack your core. You're going to end up shredded because his athlete
Yeah,
over there is doing it, right? He has the
doing
NFL athlete that's doing
P90X.
that. Exactly.
Yeah,
But then you look at us, where in my gym I have 40-year-olds and up, and they're all pushing 200 pounds, 300 pounds on their deadlift and their squat. Like that doesn't really look impressive, but at the same time, it's probably more impressive than what the dude over there doing the circus trick is. And understanding why it's more impressive and the science behind it will help you kind of deduce a lot of the bullshit out there within the fitness industry.
yeah. Like understand why you've started doing this in the first place. Like most people don't have specific things. Like there's a case where someone's like, hey, I just had like weird knee pain, and someone told me that exercise is helpful. So I decided to start using that as my why. But for most people, it's just like, hey, I just kind of feel generally weak. I want aesthetic changes. I want to be more useful. I want to be strong. I want to have the image of being strong. So you have your goal, work backwards from there. So if your goal is to be an incredibly fast sprinter, you kind of have to understand it's like, well, I'm 100 pounds overweight. I have kind of steps that I have to go in between that. But if like the goal is, hey, I just want to be big and strong, you got to triage your goals and then understand why you're doing big and strong. I think another way to interpret the understand the why is, without saying just do a lot of self-study, like Chase was saying, is like if you can tease out if what you're doing is effective, and you're not being sold something, like if you're not being sold some programming template that you're going to use once and then never touch again, something like that. If you can understand the hows and whys and the nuances behind things, you'll probably be pretty successful at it. Like if you know cars pretty well, it will be hard for a mechanic to rip you off.
Mhm.
And then we have another question here. G Lock, he says, I have a regular stress at work. Should I anticipate disruption to my workouts and plan backup easier workouts for when work gets stressful? What do you think, Chase?
It depends on the type of stress. Like if it's kind of physical stress, definitely you need to kind of adjust your workout as accordingly. But if it's, like you have a bunch of fat Karens yelling at you all day at work, like that's pretty mentally draining, but I
Uh,
think you can get through your workout, kind of just use that stress of like the pent up aggression and just put into the barbell.
mhm. Yeah. Diverting mental energy is good. Like if a day just kind of defeats you, and then it's like, hey, I need you to go do some, 10 out of 10 mentally super intense stuff. That can be a hard ask. I think that's pretty personality dependent. Um, I think in this situation, if I tell people who have irregular work schedules, like if some days they're working 4 hours, some days they're working 12, or if it's anything involving physical labor, this is, I would say, a case for auto regulation, where it's like, it doesn't have to be RPE, it doesn't have to be RIR, but it's like, hey, we want you to go in and hit some squats, and if there's 320 to 280 on the bar, pick what you think works for that relative difficulty. Like if you're resilient enough in the situation where like, hey, this is just this hard day, 2 days later it's going to be fine, then you can probably push through some things. But if it's a regular every day, you don't want to kill yourself, I don't think. um, Chase, thoughts? Agree, disagree?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about that. Like I would just still try to push it as hard as I can again because 23, I'm dumb, so I can just kind of pull that off. But like
uh,
someone who's on the older end of the spectrum, in their 50s, 60s, or even 40s, we got to
mhm,
get as much done in without causing you to fail, right? Because once you fail, that's just going to dig you deeper into the hole, and it's hard getting out of that hole. So maybe working up to, if our original plan was a set of 5 that day, just a single at the weight, right? Not worrying about how many reps we get, just one, and we move on.
mhm.
A little bit of work at somewhat of the same intensity.
Yeah. Like context, hugely context dependent. Like Haim Chapav earlier in the chat, however the hell you say his name, probably wouldn't recommend him to push as hard as he possibly can, because it's like if he's already dealing with recovery problems and he's an older gentleman, like it may not go super well. So if you're younger and resilient, you could be a little bit more bullheaded about it. Um, do get that one off the screen. Very good question. I think that
Nice.
one is that's one of the reasons why I think people have coaches. It's just like you're giving a second brain, like mental resources into the equation, and someone can tell you if you're being a big baby about it, or if you actually need to pull back. The third one, intentional practice and being interested. Another way to say this is just kind of paying attention to what you're doing. Don't lift on autopilot. Like it's a skill, it's a craft, it's a technical thing that you're trying to do. Um, like I always tell people whenever they go into the gym, it's like you should be thinking when you're squatting the empty bar. You should be thinking when you're squatting 135, even if it's 20% of your max. You should be thinking about what you're doing. Never do anything mindlessly. Like if you're doing some cardio at the end, you're getting your 20 minutes of cardio in, and you want to be mindless during that. That's great. No one cares. But when you're moving heavy barbells around and you're trying to learn how to do something, you should be really thoughtful about it. Chase, how do you feel about this one?
I actually get this a lot, and it's kind of in a weird way where like I have several people, they come in and they're like, man, learning the press, the hips motion, it was really difficult, but I practiced with a broomstick all last night. I'm like, look, thank you for practicing, but it's totally different, and I explain what's happening with the
Yeah.
load and all that stuff and how it affects the movement. But I see that they're interested and they're actually taking the practice and the technique seriously because that's what they need and what they're paying for, right? And I like that. Usually I try to tell them not to do it too much again because it's just what I mentioned earlier. But
Hmm.
Um, you know, if that happens, I'll try to do my best to explain what's actually happening in the motion, and then we just kind of work with it as I'm there. And again, he can get better feedback because I'm there saying, yes, that was good. No, you fucked up on this.
Yeah, having a coach there is a huge portion of intentional practice because we're saying things that you should be paying attention to.
Mm,
You know, it's like if you're working with an engineer who he took all of the classes, he has the degree, beautiful, smart man, all of these things. You'll work with some like high end professionals. You'll see them in the gym. It's like they have the processing power to understand everything that's going on 3 times over. But what you're doing, if you're ever interested in coaching, or just from Chase and I's perspective, you're helping them have this intentional practice. You're not thinking for them, you're helping them think. You're guiding them through this process.
mhm.
We just facilitate your existence. That's really it. But with intentional practice, it's just like if you were to treat it like the piano, treat it like the flute, whatever you're doing. If you practice without passion, if you just kind of do it and you're like, hey, I'm just kind of pressing the keys, the rhythm doesn't matter, the tempo doesn't matter, order is kind of so, it's going to sound like shit. Be really thoughtful so that your life gets better and easier. Like if you ever see someone who's really jacked and with good technique and they're lean and they have all the things that you want, it's probably not because they're like screaming in their brain, be perfect all the time. They're not just going, I need to try harder 24/7. It's they've created a life in existence that facilitates that process. And that's having the right foods at home. That's having their gym bag already packed. That's having a good gym near them. It's a lot of these little things that help facilitate the process. And then that all starts with you, with intentional practice. Number 4, Chase. This is my cardinal sin, I think, for me.
Was that you don't log everything or what?
I
Do
log
you overdo it?
everyone's everything, so I barely log anything for myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Um, I'm weird. Like I kind of store everything in head. Like whenever people are in the gym, like I can pick out like Sue's number over there that
Hmm.
she did like 2 weeks ago. I was like, no, like you don't need to jump up 5 pounds because remember 2 weeks ago, like you pulled 185 and it looked terrible. And you're like, how do you know that? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I am that way. I'm like Rain Man with other people's numbers. But
Hmm.
with mine, I try to log just the number. So it just looks like, a spreadsheet, but I don't put in like, a frowny face or like, oh, my knees hurt or anything like that. I just,
Yeah.
I just know, I'm kind of weird like that. But
Hmm.
I think this is very valuable because again, you get people like me who are just like under describe shit. Whereas if you're working with a coach or if you're trying to explain what's going wrong to a professional and you don't have the data, it's like shooting blanks, man. Like I don't know what the
Yeah.
fuck you're talking about.
Hmm. It's like you don't know what'll work and what isn't working if you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing. So it's like I'll have that. I'll be looking at someone's videos or have seen someone in person. There'll be 3 weeks in between them. Like, oh, like your warm ups at 275 were faster than your last warm ups at 275. I could have seen the last one 3 weeks ago or months ago, and I'll have that in my brain. It's the coaching eye. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful lecture by
Yeah.
Steph. Um, if you haven't seen that, look that up. The coaching eye, starting strength. You develop it, you get a weird memory for it. It's our lives and our jobs. I'll remember how weights will feel for myself. I'll be like, oh, this 225 felt faster than it did last month,
Mhm.
But if someone's like, hey, your lat pull downs that you were doing is your third back movement for the day. What was your rep count on set 3? I'd be like, fuck if I know, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll have that information for other people. Logging everything is incredibly helpful. It's helpful so that you can tell what you're doing, you can tell what you're not doing, but it's more important so that you can kind of have that visual reminder of your own consistency. It's more practice and training to be consistent with things. So it's like if you're looking at your logbook and then it's just like it's crap, the handwriting's terrible, there's chalk and barbecue sauce all over it. I don't know whether your barbecue sauce, you're eating chicken wings on top of it, there's tears. Like if you're looking at your log and it's messy and it's disorganized and you don't know what you're doing, it's a reflection of your training. Your training is probably the
Yeah.
same way. So keep your log organized, and your training generally will reflect that as well. It'll come up in tiny things too. So like let's say that you do your third set of RDLs, and then you look at your log for last week and you're like, oh, I'm actually supposed to do 4. It'll help you. It'll catch those things for you, and then you can go and do it. How does the logging work at the gyms, Chase? At the physical franchise gyms?
So we have a kind of our in-house app. It's not really an app like from an app store, but we have once we sign in and we have people actually on the gym membership, we have a feature to where we can go on our website, we can log into our digital logbook, and it's there on their phone, so they can go through Chrome.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so they save it as like a web page on their
Hmm.
actual home screen.
Yeah.
And it's, basic. I love how simple this is at the start for like the novice phase, and the majority of people, it lists the squat, the press, the bench, the deadlift, the power clean, um, and then it has a view advanced list, and that's where like all the sleek and sexy shit that we do, as we get into the intermediate and advanced, come in.
Hmm.
But it's super easy. You select what exercises that you did that day. So, like for example, you did the squat, press, and
So the
deadlift.
client is logging this.
Exactly. But
Okay.
we, as coaches, stand over their shoulder and we go, yeah, look, you do this. Oh, no, no. Remember, we did 3 sets of 5 last time. So
Right.
we'll go up 5 pounds from here.
1.5. Right.
So
Okay.
it's super simple. Everything is organized. It's neat, just like how you were saying. And
Hmm.
kind of a feature to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying is this allows this allows me. Uh,
Uh,
it allows the person to get used to that we are training and not exercising, right? So now we have a plan of what we did today. We accomplished
yeah.
that. I'm writing the next plan, and you're seeing that. Look, this isn't like we're selecting random exercises. We're going up
Mm-mm.
random numbers.
This isn't a
It's something.
random class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
small little leap to get up to the goal, right?
Yeah,
It's small.
it's like the confidence that, like, I always tell people. It's like, hey, I'm going to keep a spreadsheet for you, but like if you can get a physical notebook for your first 6 months or so, just write all your shit down, write how you're feeling. Even a little sense of being like, felt like shit today, felt great today, something like that. When you're 5 years down the line into lifting, you'll look back on that with very fond memories.
Yeah.
Jeff Reagan's in the chat saying hi, pals. I love this post, pal posting. Jeff says this almost every stream. What a guy. Um, and then I'm going to leave this one up for the entire stream, I think.
Thought Slayer 69. Notice me press Senpai Chase.
Impress
I see you,
Senpai.
man. I see you.
Hmm. Yeah, we see you. We're constantly watching you, Thought Slayer 69. Absolutely no thoughts allowed. That's just kind of a passive rule for the stream. Yeah, hopefully we'll have that rule at the franchise gyms soon enough. No thoughts, no leggings allowed. If
Mhm.
you're, yeah, you have to wear prairie dresses and jeans.
Exactly.
Yeah. Greg Locke has a question. Wait, leave the site. I don't want to leave the site. I'll end the stream if I do that. Let's see what this one says. When you say everything, do you mean food, sleep, stress as well? Chase, do you think this is meritable? Has merits?
Um, in the realm of what's going to get you to accomplish your goal of adding 5 pounds or whatever you need to do, yeah, those are kind of the big pillars that we're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
That's all. That's basically all recovery right there.
Yeah. I think so one thing that that is helpful, but it's very hard to pull off, because people, it just gets so overlooked, is to do like a pre-training expectation survey and then a post-training confirmation. So like whenever I'm logging things for myself, whenever it's like a specific training period, before I go to practice or before I go to the gym, I have that little mental note of, I think everything is going to go fine today. I think everything is going to go well today. Everything, all my ducks are in a row, or I feel terrible when I was up working until 2 a.m. last night. I'll have those things, and then I will compare that to my performance and then how I feel afterwards about it to kind of help my gauge of reality kind of set in. Um, so I think that that's super helpful. If you're working with a coach, that information should be available to them, but not so much that you have to tell them every time of being like, I'm feeling average. Because we know most days are going to be average, because that's what
Yeah.
average is. Like most days are totally normal. What you need to let people know, and yourself, frankly, when you're analyzing your own stuff, is anomalies. So it's like, I normally work out in the mid afternoon. If I for some reason have to work out in 7 in the morning and I'm in the gym at like 7:30, and I'm like, why does everything feel terrible? This doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll still do that. But if I take the time to think about like, hey, what time did I work out? Did I have my food in before? How was my stress beforehand? And I'll answer those questions for myself. It's the first 3 questions article that Rip has, but it's very helpful to do all the time. Another question from the man himself. Hopefully Melchior Caspar shows up. These are our 2 wizard guys, Haim Chapaev and Melchior. Chase, can you read this one?
Hey, can I make a recommendation here? When you review form, can you make your faces on top instead of on the bottom? Sometimes it's important to see what you're showing slash telling, but text is blocking you. As you know, I'm
That's a
doing
good
right
point,
now.
man. No, you are 100% correct.
I like it
Uh,
because then you don't have to see my disappointed face, right? Like
yeah,
I don't
whenever we're
see
just making fun of people for their
exactly.
gyno. Um, yeah, no, that's a very good point. We'll try to do that this time. It's hard to catch with all of the massively complex things we're doing here.
Mhm.
All right, we're 30 minutes in. We got to speed this stuff up, man. All right, number 5, eat to support your goals. You have 60 seconds, Chase.
Plain and simple. The vast majority of people, well, they're excited about training. They're doing everything right with training and getting their form down, but then the recovery aspect of it, it plays a major role, and they cut themselves short. Do not be the person who just wants to stay, at a relatively easy weight, a small weight, whenever you are hamstringing yourself to the point where you're not going to be able to add 5 pounds past a month. Whereas this is the easiest time in the program, right? Adding 5 pounds. So why not try to expand on that for as long as possible?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
mean,
good?
like, I actually just had this conversation with my guys today. He's been stuck. He went from 165 to 172. Progress, great, and now progress has been slowing down. We've been really fighting for pounds on the bar. Programming's already intermediate, little tricky. And it's like, hey, how have your past two weigh-ins? Past two weigh-ins have been exactly the same. It's like, if it's exactly the same, I can almost tell that you're losing a little bit of weight, frankly. Um, just from like habits that people have around maintenance. It's like, hey, just shove some more food in your face. You don't have
Hmm.
to like everything you eat, but you have to eat. If you go to the Starting Strength website, go to nutrition. If you just look up Santana, Robert Santana on the website, he has a bunch of good articles. There's a few other articles on the Starting Strength website as well for nutrition. They've talked about it ad nauseum. You'll be able to find some resources from us there. All right, using your tools. This one may be a little bit long. Do you want to go on this one, Chase?
Yeah. Don't be the person who waits on getting, shoes. Shoes are a big thing with helping
Yeah.
with your balance, right?
Yeah.
It fixes a lot of the problems that you're having with your form, right? Same thing with a belt. You'll need a belt pretty fast, especially on the press and the deadlift. Chalk too. Straps, not so much, but there comes a point where straps play a key role. And then is that forums as well?
Yeah, forums. I think a lot of people will be pretty bullheaded about this or pretty stubborn about it. But I've talked to people who are like, yeah, I was reticent to get a coach, or I was reticent to post on the Starting Strength Reddit or the Facebook or the actual Starting Strength forum because they think their form isn't good enough. They'll be like, oh, people are going to make fun of me. I need to get my form better before I post it there. And it's like probably a little bit, but like when you need help, ask for it. If you think you need help and you're considering asking for it, chances are you needed that help a month ago you know
I gotcha.
yeah, so it's just like use the resources that exist. Like there's an entire infrastructure that exists solely to make your experience better. We have specialized footwear and tools for our task. Like if you're dancing, if you're running a marathon, if you're rock climbing, we have specific shoes for these things, lifting included. Like use your chalk. There's no reason not to use. I've had some people who are like, oh, I don't want to use chalk, I think it's cheating. Same thing with straps.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, if it's like if you're doing pull-ups and your hands are failing first, but you feel like your back and your arms haven't done anything, it's like, yeah, dog, use some straps. You know what I mean? Like, don't let there be any sort of artificial hamstringing be happening for the sake of some sort of virtue.
Yeah.
And like the coaching and the forum thing, especially. Like I think every coach has done this at some point in their career where they've done a tremendous amount of work for free just because there's not a single chance in hell they would say no to someone. Like if you saw me in the middle of the street and I was carrying like a baby and a puppy and you were like, hey, can you look at the squat video? I'd say yes. I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's only gonna take
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Chase?
Yeah, I agree. Like I get this a lot with people on Instagram. I mean, it's just random questions like, "Hey, what do you think about like a zinc coated bar?" Like, I don't know. I've never really lifted on one, but if it's a bar and it's not going to bend after you putting 225 on, hey, that's a good bar, and it
Hmm.
has knurling, so just use it.
There you go.
I think people kind of, I want to say like they undervalue the coaching probably the most, whereas like I still have people to in the gym after working with me 6 months, where they're just like, they still hide stuff from me. If they're like, yeah, this weekend I was kind of running around and stuff. And I was like, well, what do you mean by running around? They're like, I was kind of doing some hit workout and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you got to tell us so that way we can actually use that and
Mhm.
program you accordingly.
Yeah, it's like, well, even when I have some of my athletes who'll do that. He'll think that they'll apologize to me, or they'll think that they're doing something wrong. It's like, dude,
Mhm.
you're employing me. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's not
It's
hurting my feelings at all.
it's like, I have not conscripted you into the lifting military. The lifting police
Mhm.
are not going to come and take your badge and gun away. It's just like, we exist to solve your problems. Let people solve your problems. Same thing with
Yep.
text. It's like the books exist for a reason. So do the forums. 7 and 8, a little bit heady. Expect progress and expect setbacks. Do you want to kick us off on these, Chase?
Yep. So out of anything that you're doing, whether it be lifting or playing the piano, just some task or skill that you're trying to learn, progress, measurable progress is key. Otherwise, you're just fucking around. So in this instance with lifting, right, we have the novice linear program where we're adding 5 pounds. We have a logbook where we're seeing the progress. Why would you want to not make progress, right? Why would you not want to get better? So expect that, right? And it's going to be kind of challenging, but you're going from, a different person at the start to whatever you envisioned yourself 3 months ago, 6 months ago. It's that transformation, that metamorphosis.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like, training isn't going to make you weaker. If you dedicate time to something, you're going to get returns out of it. If you're
Mhm.
not, then you need to do that thorough self-accounting and say, like, what the hell am I actually doing? That's when you look in your logbook and you're like, oh, the personal trainer that I hired at my Planet Fitness or my LA Fitness has just been like having me do a machine circuit and nothing has happened to me for 3 months. You're like, great, sick. Like, expect progress. If progress isn't happening, and you don't know why, use your tools. Go back a step, go to your coach, go to your forums, figure out what's going on, like, figure out the problem. Like, if progress isn't happening and you're doing that accounting and you don't know why, that's a red flag. You should also be expecting setbacks. I think this is a huge one. What's the first setback look like for someone in their journey through starting strength, Chase?
Getting sick or just daily
Yeah.
life activities happen. So
Do you
this
mean
is
like
like
a cold, or do you mean like a back tweak? What do you mean?
um, more so probably a cold,
Okay.
especially like with the coronavirus bullshit going on. Like we had a lot of that where like we had someone who tested positive and they couldn't come into the gym for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks is a long fucking time if
Hmm.
you're wanting to make progress. So I mean, shit happens. Like we've had some people where they couldn't show up in the morning because their car stalled or they had a flat tire. We try to make setbacks as manageable as possible, right? So if it's something that you are not like hospitalized for, or you
Yeah.
literally cannot go to the gym, there's a way to work around the setback. Like how we were kind of talking about with who was, I think it was G Lock, right, in the chat, how like maybe you're hitting a top single instead of that set of five, right? We can kind of manage that setback. But
Hmm.
if it's something kind of a little bit more drastic, shit happens. That's why we want you to make progress as much as possible to where whenever you set back, let's say 3 months into the program, it's not that bad as how it would be, your first several weeks of doing this because you're stronger now.
Yeah, it's this kind of goes in with progress. Like, it is incredibly rare, or goes in, I would say, with expect progress. It's incredibly rare to have something happen that ubiquitously sets you back entirely across the board.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're like, hey, my house burned down, and then that same arsonist went and burned down my business. It's like, okay, I get it. I'm stepping out. That's
Yeah.
a huge setback. You take a year to figure your life out. But if it's like, hey, I have a shoulder tweak, or I have a hip tweak, or something like that, there's still things you can be learning and doing to improve at the task itself. And the task is just like fitness and being healthy and seeing all of those rewards. So it's like, hey, if you break your ankle, it's an upper body hypertrophy block. Congratulations, you're doing a lot of bodybuilding now. It's like, hey, like, if your hip hurts and your shoulder hurts, we're going to do limited ranges of motion. You're going to get strong in what you can. Hey, you can do a bunch of calves. You can do a bunch of hamstrings. Do a bunch of whatever you want. Like, setbacks are a thing, but if you are very rigid about what you're doing, and I guess this goes into don't be afraid to change. If you're very rigid about what you're doing, those setbacks can be much more real. Like, if you're only limiting yourself to a very like limited script, and then something gets in that way, that sucks. You got to
Yeah.
change what you're doing. I think like Chase was saying, we did see this in the beginning of the pandemic. Like I had a lot of athletes who were like, hey, I've only ever lifted in a gym before. How the hell do I train at home? Like I've never done any calisthenics before. It's like, hey, well, you're going to get some rings and some push-up stands and some sandbags, and you got to figure it out. So I think the past year and a half has probably been pretty illuminating for most people. And I think with like pain and injury, short notes on this one, but like we have an episode on this, by the way. It happens to everyone universally, always. Chase is 23, you said?
Yep.
Okay, I'm 27. Both of us have done a lot of sports. I've done mostly sports where people are trying to hurt me. Chase has done sports where there's 405 pounds in his wrists and above his head.
Yeah, well, I mean, football too, so I guess people are trying to hurt me there too.
I don't think that would hurt as much as 405 in my wrists. My wrists would turn into dust, I think, if I unracked 405. All of these bones would just collapse in on themselves. I would have beautiful compound fractures in my forearms. But yeah, we've had more tweaks than anybody can count, but it's just a thing. It's just a thing that happens. You just keep pushing through it. Don't be afraid to change, Chase. How do you feel about this one?
This is kind of a one for the people who are like, those type A people who are just like, yes, I love doing the program, but they have their blinders on to where they can't see that they're kind of affecting themselves further down the line. Like, for example, a guy who's, on the tail end of the novice linear progression, they are training, the squat for about an hour, when in reality, it probably needs to be 30 minutes at the most, because he's resting 15 minutes per set of 5. And it's just way too goddamn long. And he's pissing off everyone at the gym because he's the only squat rack, right?
He has a hammock on the squat rack, yeah.
Exactly. So why not change to where you can make your program, 1, still progress, 2, in a shorter amount of time, and 3, a lot more manageable. It's just something that, you have to kind of use your tools on. Again, go back on that with your coaching, or just get someone who actually knows what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even in uneducated forum conversation in places with like dubious information, you'll be able to tease out some good stuff, just understand the quality. I'm just putting Thought Slayer 69's comment back up. I forgot I took it down. That was a huge mistake. I'm sorry, Thought Slayer. But yeah, don't be afraid to change. That's one thing that I'll see super frequently, is people being like, oh, I'm still my deadlift LP. And then I've seen a video, or somebody a video, and they'll be like, why is this video 5 minutes long? And they'll do a single. It's a grindy single. They'll stand over the bar for a minute and a half, then like do a double, and then stand over the bar for another minute, and then do another rep. And they'll be like, yeah, that was a set of 5. So many people have started fitness. Most people have never, no one's finished it, but like most people have never achieved any real level of competency at it. They'll get to this point where their expectations don't meet reality, and then they'll fall off. Like don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to change your expectations. And then setting goals. Chase, I feel like you have more experience with this one than me with novices. Can you talk about this one, setting goals?
Yep. The vast majority of people, whenever they first walk into the gym, it's, hey, I want to get stronger. Well, okay, that's cool, but what is your vision of strength, right? Is it you just being able to, carry around your grandkids? Is it you taking up all the groceries in one trip? Like, what do you want to do? Because that's so submaximal that we're going to achieve that within like 3 weeks of you doing this.
Right.
Now we have to make, better goals to where you can train a little bit further down the line towards. For example, like if you're someone who's struggling just squatting with the box and the empty bar, squatting 135, it's going to take you a little bit. So that's kind of, again, the macro goal here. But the micro goals kind of leading up to that, it's, hey, now I want to add a 10 to this. Now I want to kind of go to 95, which is a 25-pound weight on it. Using those landmarks to help you achieve the big goal here.
Yeah, like the global goal or the macro goal, depending on how you want to call it. That may just be like, hey, I want to, like fill out a pair of slacks and bust some sleeves. Maybe like, hey, I want to look really nice. Just as much as it may be like, I'm 55 years old and I want to be able to put my lawnmower in the back of my truck without hurting my back. It's different for everybody. So you have that big global goal as your parent, and then underneath that, those local goals, they'll help you get there in the meanwhile. And that can be specific weights on the bar. That can be like, I'm going to take my squat from 135 to 140, and I'm going to make it happen. But it can also be process-oriented goals where it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm not going to say a complaint out loud the entire time. I can think them, but I'm not going to say them. It's like, I'm only going to look at my phone 2 times during this gym session. Or it could be, it's like, I'm going to... A lot of them I think can be cues too. That's what a lot of coaching is. It's like, hey, on this next squat session, keep your damn knees out. Don't let your knees wobble around. That can be a local goal just as much as it can be weight on the bar. Anything to add here to number 10, Chase?
No, it's a lot of, up to whatever person's, their goals are. It's kind of talking
It's
about
hugely
that.
individual.
Is
that what you mean? Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it goes anywhere from dieting to like what you're saying, making a routine, all that shit.
Yeah. We had some hot takes and honorable mentions here. We're 45 minutes into this damn thing, and we haven't gone through form checks. So you can pause the video and read these, and then, I don't know, print them out and hang it on your fridge. Chase, pick one of these. Pick one. Which one do you think you want to do?
I'll talk about exercise versus training.
Okay. Talk about exercise versus training while I pull up some videos.
So with the 10 tips for novice, right? And this kind of goes back to using and learning why, all the resources that kind of attribute to that why. We are not exercising, right? We are training, right? We are going from one physiological adaptation to another, depending on your sport, your goal. So this kind of ties in everything. That's why I kind of talked about the exercise versus training. But again, if you kind of determine what is training versus what is exercising, it's going to help you weed out a lot of the bullshit here, right? For example, this guy benching, like he's getting, he's training a bigger bench, right? So he is growing in muscle size, his strength is increasing, all that shit. So where he doesn't have to spend so much time exercising, doing a bunch of flies, doing a bunch of, dips and some silly shit like that, where it's, building the upper chest in 6 weeks type thing.
This is a beautiful bench. This is our boy Stephen Louie, by the way. For the longtime viewers of the show, you'll recognize him from lifting in his basement with those sawhorses as safeties. Very brave man. He was squatting like 600 pounds or something like that on some wooden sawhorses. But he's at the gym now. He's doing a bench press, and I believe we have 405, 425, 430 on the bar here. How do you feel about this bench, Chase?
It's pretty good. I like his feet a little bit flatter on the floor to kind of get a little bit more contact with his leg drive. But I mean, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I love the elbow flare that he's having on the way out. Like the pecs are just they're pulling, you can tell. I think this is a beautiful bench, Stephen. I would like to see the feet out a little bit more. I think I think you can get a better leg drive off of it. The reason I say that is kind of because like the pinky side, your smallest toe, it's pulling up off the ground a little bit. You're only really pushing through the big toe. If you could just move them out so you can get more contact with the floor, I think that'd be great. Yeah, but overall, super strong bench, my man. Send in some more videos. And then we'll go to the next one too. We have 10 people, I think, watching right now. So if you have any questions or anything like that, please post them up. Let's see what else we got. We have some, I don't want to call them throwbacks because I don't consider them to be throwbacks. You know what I mean? But we haven't seen them in a while, is maybe why I'm saying this. Here's Stigsred lifting in another place, by the way. This is a different gym than what we usually see Stigsred.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. This one, he seems to be in some sort of barn. It seems like he's pressing 115-ish.
Is this in slow motion?
No, you're probably just seeing a slow frame rate.
Probably.
Yeah, you're probably just seeing a slow frame rate. Definitely
Okay,
not
yeah, it fixed itself. I love my internet.
What a beautiful man, Mr. Stigsred. Okay. How do you feel about this press, Chase?
I'd like the tempo a little bit faster. So this is still not that heavy, but as you kind of get more and more into the press, the tempo matters, right? So speed from the hips to launch the bar up, and then you catching kind of the bar launching up and pressing it. All that timing is going to play a huge, crucial role as the weight gets heavier. So don't spend too much time at the start, and just make them fly.
Yeah, speed it up. You're taking like very, if you're watching at home, you can't really hear him doing this, but he's taking like very exaggerated full breaths out and full breaths in. It can be really short and really crisp. Like, it doesn't have to be, I'm completely emptying my lungs and filling them back up again. It is a short, commanding, authoritative, very fast gulp of air with the mouth. It's not super exaggerated. On the grip, I think the grip needs a lot of work here. His forearms are tilted like this. They're going out. I can barely even do it with my arms. His forearms are tilted out like this. Okay. We want them vertical. Right. So it's like, if you're looking at it straight on from the front, his arms basically should be right here. If your arms are tilted out like this, there's going to be some problems. It's generally not very comfortable, and it's not very efficient. And not to mention, his arms are also a little bit far to the outside. So he's really like all the way out here. We want to think like, when you're taking your grip on the bar, put your arms straight out in front of you, like you're walking like a zombie, and just get straight into the bar. I would narrow the grip. And for the bottom position, I like to tell people to float it right under their chin. In this situation for him, he basically has the thing at the collar of his shirt all the way down here. I think that's a little bit low as a function of the grip being too wide. Yeah. What do you think's a true? He could probably be doing 125 or so here. These seem like they had some wiggle room, I think.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't hard.
Sorry, Stigsred. Try harder. Okay. That was Steven.
And I kind of see that a lot too with the press. Like, people will go through, like, if he's worried about the sequence of like the hips and press, they'll sit there for a little bit. They go, okay, yeah. And now they throw it, instead of like on a squat, you have to just commit to it. And on a deadlift, it's fairly easy. You just pick it up.
Yeah, there's just there's too much brain power going on, man. Just get your setup right and then move the thing, We have some more pressing from Francesco.de. Now, these are heavy for Francesco.
Have you seen this one already?
No, I'm just my opinion from whip one, I think. Like, just from looking at bar speed, I don't know how much more is there. We'll see how rep 5 moves. Yeah, that's a grinder. Chase, what are your thoughts on this? Are you seeing this okay, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
I want to see more hips. I think you're kind of getting, as the rep, or rather the set, increases, you're getting very minute with the hips. Keep launching them forward. Really extend them forward. It's going to create a much more whip, and it's going to aid you on the way up. And then at the top, don't worry about shoving your heads through. I think like right there, as you're kind of laying back, you're wanting to just hurry up and stand up. You're overdoing it at the top. Just shrug when you're in that position.
Yeah, reach farther with your shoulders. Like, when you're coming off the chest, push your entire shoulder up with it. Like, you're punching everything up simultaneously. Don't think of the shrug as a second movement that you're doing at the top. Combine the two of them. I think what Chase said about the head was great. Like, you're focusing too much on the head position here for sure. Yeah, and I think the first thing what he said, like, don't be subtle about the hip movement. It's okay if the hips are traveling a real long distance. That's totally fine. I'll see this with a lot of skinnier guys. They'll really get like all of the motion out of like really just their thoracic spine. They'll just get like this little, like bump going with their upper back, rather than physically moving the hips forward, which is what we want. Let's try and do some math here. We got 25 into 10. So who knows how much weight that is? And then this looks like some sort of microplate wizardry, but I don't think this is over.
Maybe like 122 or something like that,
which is a crazy non-existent weight. Jeff Riggins. Jeff, you said something other than hi, pals. This is illegal. I didn't even know he had other keys on his keyboard. But yeah. So he's micro-loading the press at this point. I think some more aggression, work on the cues that we talked about, and then that should shape up. We have some other lifts from Francesco. I think today is going to be more of a, I don't want to say a case study day, but we have a lot of lifts from, pockets of people. So we will go over another one of Francesco's lifts here in a second. Okay. We're almost there. Tech support crew. No belt on the deadlift. He belted on the press.
Yeah.
Well, what were you saying?
Do you think that is? I wonder if that is micro plates. Because hell, if he's micro loading a deadlift, that's just overkill, I think.
That could be overkill, yes. I also think this is a storage unit. Now that we're seeing these valuable details outside, that's a power move, man. I think this is a power clean, maybe. No, it is not. Never mind. Definitely not a power clean.
Dude, he is going super slow on my end.
He is going slow on my end as well. I don't think that's just a you thing.
Okay,
he's just
good.
a slow deadlifter. Yeah. I would say these reps are taking... Let's watch the next one.
Jesus Christ.
His concentric portion is taking around 2.25 seconds, just for reference. If you have a stopwatch at home, you want to test my mental skills out. Give that a try. I think it's going through slower on Chase's computer.
On my end, he hasn't pulled a.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Chase's internet has decided to die on him, is what's happening here. I think everybody. But yeah, so I'll go over this one. Yeah, Chase, it's an internet thing, man. We gotta everybody mail you more bandwidth. Chase has to get a PO box sent up. You guys can send him thumb drives filled with internet. I think the hips are too high on this one, Francesco. So I'll pause the frame once you start setting your back, which is going to be right there. And then blowing this up is going to help. Yeah, Theodore said, yeah, Chase is frozen. RIP Chase. So everybody, when we're looking at this deadlift, you'll see Francesco's arm. His arm right here, entirely in front of his legs. If that's the situation, generally the hips are too high or the bar is behind midfoot. It can be both. It could be one of the two, right? So I would tell Francesco to set up slightly farther away from the bar, let his knees get a little bit more forward, and then the hips will come down naturally. You don't have to cue that too much. But what will happen is that his arm will be basically flush. His elbow will be flush with his knee. Right? We don't want one of them shooting in front of the other or one of them being behind the other. We want them lined up right in front. So I think the hips are a little bit high on this one. This is a really good, I think, SLDL. Like he's getting some excellent hamstring and glute training out of this. But I think he could really speed it up if he got a little bit farther away from the bar, got the bar at midfoot. Yeah. Bandwidth donation drive for Chase for just 5 cents a day.
I have no fucking idea what it is. Like I see my router right there, perfectly fine, and I have auto pay on my billing.
I think you're back now, Chase. You're back now.
Jesus Christ!
Just for a little bit, you were just too slow. Yeah, from 5 megabytes a day, you can help Chase watch videos of people lifting on the internet.
Please.
All right, we'll see the next to Francesco's videos. I think this is an updated squat one here. We'll check this one out. We're definitely going to run over an hour here today, folks, so thank you very much for sticking with us. What car is this? Everybody figure out what car this is. It's a hatchback. It could be a VW Golf. I don't know what B-pillar this is.
That's not a Golf.
It's not a Golf?
Golfs are like a little bit more aerodynamic looking. These are
a little bit more sleek.
It may be like a Fiesta. Or Fiat.
A Fiat. Fiesta. Yeah, it's a hatchback. The fifth door in the back is open. I don't recognize this B-pillar. Somebody, detective in the crowd, please figure that out if anybody's into cars.
So I think what we told Francesco last time was like he's holding back his knees, right?
Yeah, he was on his heels. He was really narrow. His butt was way behind him. Yeah. So we'll see. The stance seems just about as narrow as it was last time, Francesco.
Yeah. He's still kind of wanting to initiate the ass back a little bit too much, though.
I think this is better and also faster for sure. Like the knees are forward. Yeah.
It's improving. I still want your knees like way the fuck forward, though.
Yeah. I would think knees first. Not only knees, but like get the knees forward, man. Like it's okay to feel weight in your toes. Absolutely is. Or almost like leaning over last, lean over last, try to stay a little bit more vertical in it. But yeah, I really like these as compared to before, Francesco. This was a definite improvement. Email us. Let us know what car this is, please. And your license plate and social security number as well. Yeah, this looked just like the car I had in Japan, which is a little Daihatsu, a little pink Daihatsu. But yeah, all right. enough car rambling. Let's see what else we got going on. We got a deadlift from Jules coming in too.
The
We'll see how
singer,
this one
awesome.
goes. Jules? I have no idea. This is Jules Oko. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Rep 1
Jules.
setup was not that bad.
Jules, come on.
Phoebe in the chat. He chose the cheapest plan. Send help. This is ridiculous.
No, it's because Phoebe is stealing Wi-Fi.
This is ridiculous. Phoebe is there with Chase now. Everybody, if you've been a long time listener of the show, you'll recognize the lovely Phoebe. Phoebe, you gotta get on that, man. You gotta upgrade the plan. This is what we need the donation drive for that we sent over.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Jules here.
You do that while I look up this car.
All right. So Jules, like Alex was saying, the initial setup, it was pretty good. I think your butt was a little bit too low. You're kind of wanting to squat it up, keep your ass up high, get uncomfortable on the setup. Now, what's the big fucking F flag that we see here as you're going on in this set is you're bouncing them. Like you cannot bounce the bar because if you see over time, you're losing your back extension because it is pulling you out of extension each time. So pause right there after the first rep, take 3 seconds, right? Get really nice and squeezed up, get uncomfortable, then push. Make the sets last longer a little bit more.
Yeah, so like this first rep setup, Jules, is like it's pretty decent. It's a pretty decent setup. Yeah. I think the heels are a little bit too wide. The heels need to come in, and then we'll compare that setup. So everyone just get this in your brain again. This was first one, and then we'll compare this to like the last rep setup. So this is the last rep coming off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like very apparent difference. This is what Chase was talking about. But yeah, do you want to run through this one more time? Any parting shots for Jules, Chase?
Look at the 5-step setup and just follow that to a T. And
yeah, we got
slow
this.
These down.
Yeah, we got this through the Starting Strength app, so it is on board the Starting Strength app. Okay. All right, everybody. Hold on. Chase, why are you laughing?
Just the awkwardness, man. I love it.
Don't laugh, Chase. We're doing very important detective work here.
All right, serious face. Here we go.
We're doing very important detective work here at the same time. Everybody.
Okay. Yeah, so what did the car look like?
Here we go. So this was courtesy of Theodore in the chat. He thinks it's a Volhall Mariva. Volhall Mariva. But look at the tires, Chase. Look at the tires.
On the left. That shit on the left is way too sleek, way too goddamn aerodynamic than that.
No, I think
over there.
I think Theodore nailed this straight on the head. If you look at this wheel with that one, it's the same rim, man. Same rim. The only argument I think we have here.
Yeah, look at so you see the bend right there on the passenger door, like.
You mean the B pillar right here, where my cursor is?
No, so go down a little bit to the right.
So this curve.
Yes, that little curve. I don't think that's a curve right there.
So this is the 2021, is what we're looking at here. So this could be an older model. I think that's what it could be. That's what it could be. Let's see what did Theodore say again? Yeah, he said older model. That was it. Theodore nailed this on the head. I think this is it. I don't know the specific year, but I think if we were to look through the catalog for Volhall Mariva, we would find one without that. But the wheels, man, exactly the same. Crown of Iron in the chat coming in too. How are the deadlifts going, Crown of Iron? We haven't seen. We saw your deadlifts. What was it? Well, last week, 2 weeks ago. Do you remember that, Chase?
I think so. I don't know.
I'll pull them up after this. We have a question from Ben. Chase, do you want to go through this?
Yeah. What do you guys think about safety straps versus safety pins for a squat rack? Me personally, I never lifted with safety straps. It's always been the pins. I like the pins more so for pin work, the adjustability that I can afford with that, and it's a rigid object, right? So I can set my pins at an angle if I want to, squat at a different height and bench. Whereas with the safety strap, it's good for saving your life, I guess.
I will say the straps don't bend bars typically. If you rack pull a lot, you can throw it on some straps and it'll be fine.
Mm.
So this gentleman is named Fab, F-A-B. He's somewhere in Europe. I don't know what crazy language this is. Where they're saying halteres. Science has no way of knowing what that word means.
It's like a Eastern Planet Fitness.
Yeah, this is Soviet Bloc Planet Fitness. Who knows what these are? The big thing here is definitely going to be bar position, Fab.
Mm-hmm.
Crown of Iron. Yeah, thanks for showing up, man. We always appreciate the viewership for sure. How do you feel about these squats, Chase?
Like you're saying, let's see if we can't put the bar a little bit lower, and then you're initiating basically leaning over with your chest going down. Just due to the non-secure bar, it's rolling up on your neck. So again, lower it, right? Widening out your grip a little bit to where the bar sinks down, just below where this ridge is. It's called the spine of the scapula. Stance seems fine, maybe a little bit narrow. I'd probably widen it out just a little bit, but for the most part, like your back is extending, that's fine. You need more hips on the way up, but I think once we kind of control the bar position, it's going to
I
iron
changed
out
the
a lot of
video
the
too
stuff.
early. I'm sorry, I'm a
Fuck.
terrible host. I was looking for Crown of Iron's video. I think this is Crown of Iron. Crown, is this you? Let me know, dog. Otherwise, we got to go back to Fab. I'm going to play this while I go back to Fab's video.
Dude, okay, what the fuck, Theodore? Theodore, are you like just an encyclopedia for everything?
Yeah, it's Detective Theodore Hour. Halter race
Yeah,
is
it is, man.
Portuguese for
That's
dumbbells,
awesome.
everybody. We've expanded our viewership into the real Spain, Portugal. But yes, Fab here. So the video that I want you to look up is nailing the bar position with Phil Meggers. If you just look up squat grip, starting strength, squat grip, Phil Meggers, Meggers, you'll find it. It's a really good video. Walks you through exactly where to put the bar. That's where it should be going. If you fix that, these will be really good. Like the depth that you're hitting, it's maybe a little bit too deep. Honestly, this is probably fine, but it'll get sorted out once you fix the bar position. Really, overall, these are not that bad of a start. Question from Crown of Iron. Do you want to hit this one, Chase?
Yep. Thoughts on dumbbell curls for novice linear progression instead of barbell curls? I'm very time poor. I guess he's poor on management. And I can't squeeze any curling work between main lifts and warm up sets. I guess if you don't have that luxury of allowing, enough barbell space, then yeah. But the problem with dumbbell curls is that, you need so many of them to, I guess, kind of run a little LP on them. So where, yeah, you could probably do it in a normal Globo gym, but then you're going to be that douchebag who's just like, maybe has like this huge army of dumbbells around his squat rack.
Yeah, I think so. I think Crown lives in it. This is Lucas, by the way. We're going to be watching his deadlifts. He lives in the darkness of his dungeon. But back extensions seems pretty good so far. We're seeing some nice wrinkling in the shirt. He'll pull rep one eventually. It's a 39-second video. We'll see how it goes. This is heavy. I think this is 180 kilos for him on the bar. But Crown, as for your question, I think I disagree with Chase on this one. If you just grab one pair of dumbbells and then you're just keeping it with you when you're in between benching or pressing or something like that, it's fine, dog. See if your gym has anything that like has duplicates. Like a lot of gyms will have two sets of like the weights between 30 to 60 because so many people use those. You just grab one of those, it's probably fine. It's kind of just a gym etiquette thing. It's not the end of the world. I don't think there's any appreciable difference between dumbbell curls versus barbell curls. Granted, you are competent at both of them. If one of them you are incompetent at, that one will be worse. But it's so non-consequential after because like he says he does chin-ups, you know what I mean? So it's like you're getting 90% of your return right there, So it's like you're trying to get the cherry on top, and then those details don't matter too much. How do you feel about these deadlifts, Chase?
They're not bad. He's clearly fighting for back extension on these later reps. But for the setup, these look fairly good. I think he's maybe dropping his butt just a little bit, or it seems like in the video. I like to see a different angle and a little bit more luminosity. But yeah, these for the most part, setup looks pretty damn good. Just you got to fight for back extension, and if you're not wearing a belt by now, you definitely need a belt.
Yeah, these are great for beltless pulls. I don't think you have a belt on. It would probably help you tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely trying to set his back. That's the priority. That's like the
Mm-hmm.
number one point. The result really changes. And I think this is just a super heavy weight for you, man. This is 180 kilos, so that's nothing to shrug at. But I really like these as well. So Chase is on point there. We have some other lifts from Lucas. So we'll look at Lucas's press. This one I think was during the daytime because we have a little bit more of that illumination, like you requested. So wrist position, red flag for wrist position so far.
Mm-hmm.
And grip width's a little bit wide. And this is 60 kilos, by the way, everybody. How do you feel about these, Chase?
Yeah, so what you pointed out with the wrist, definitely. But as far as the other stuff, like once we get the wrist fixed, widen out the stance and learn how to throw your hips a little bit more properly. So it's not a hump, right? So whenever you throw your hips back, you're creating a distance now that you have to overcome. All right, you have another moment arm essentially on top of the moment arm that you've introduced with your wrist bent back so much. That's why it's so hard on this little range of motion from like about where the start position is to about forehead height. If you can mitigate that for, all the sake of fixing your stance and throwing your hips forward, this will look a lot better.
Yeah. So anytime we're seeing like the hips do that awkward little pull backwards before they go forward, you're losing a lot of tightness. You're just losing a tremendous amount of tightness. Think about just standing straight up. Stand normally. Like, you're standing as if there's not a barbell there. The barbell should be right over the middle of your foot, so it really shouldn't get in the way. It shouldn't bother you that much. If you look up starting strength press grip, there's a few lovely videos with Chase here. Phil has a really good video on it. There's Rip fixes the press grip, I think, is another good one. Yeah, there's a ton that you can go through.
I think that was a squat grip for Rip.
Oh, is that the one I'm thinking of?
Mm-hmm. But essentially here, like this is a brief overview. If you're going to take, your hand placement on the bar,
Chase.
it's going to be.
Hold on, buddy. Boop. You're giant now. Giant and beautiful.
So we have pronation of our hands, right? So here, the bar is resting here. And I'm not going to do this because now I've already introduced extension of my wrist. Instead, I'm going to hike up my elbow, then grab it. And then as the bar rolls, right, my wrist remains neutral.
Yeah. So one very important thing that Chase said there, the bar rolls. You don't move your wrist to the bar moves for you. Right. And if you're in like some grindy metal hooks or something where the bar isn't moving that much, put something over it, put some leather over it if you can. It'll grind away, but you need that bar to be able to rotate. Chase, do you want to do the outro while you're the giant head? I think that's everything we got for today.
Yeah, I think that's everything. So, guys, if you have videos, send them in. If you want to talk to us about just random stuff or just like, how you're feeling that day, it will be your emotional support coaches. Just hit us up.
Yeah, man, we're life coaches is what we are. All we do is tell people how to train forearms. That's all we do. But yeah, head back to the beginning of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the other episodes, do all that jazz, send in some videos. But that's it. Have a good night, everybody.